navigating relationships for a tranquil life. As we journey through life, we find ourselves woven into a tapestry of relationships, whether with family, friends, colleagues, or neighbors. These connections can be sources of joy and companionship. Yet they can also bring stress and anxiety. As we grow older, we come to understand that the quality of these relationships far outweighs their quantity. Choosing the right people to surround ourselves with not only enriches our lives, but also brings peace of mind. An age-old saying advises us to choose our friends wisely and our environment carefully, reminding us to be selective about the relationships we nurture. Not everyone who is close or familiar is worth keeping in touch with. Some neighbors are best kept at a distance, and certain relatives may not be worth getting too close to. Sometimes, creating distance is the best way to protect yourself from toxic relationships and live a life of tranquility. So, who are these people? In this video, we'll share insights on the 3 types of neighbors to avoid and 3 types of relatives to keep at arm's length, so you can live a more serene and happy life. If you enjoy this video, please like and comment with a 2 to show your love. If you think we can improve, give us a heart and comment with a 7, so we can do better in future videos. Thank you. And don't forget to subscribe to After 7080 for more valuable content. Part 1. 3 types of neighbors to avoid. The gossip. Neighbors play a crucial role in our daily lives. They are the people we might meet or interact with frequently, even daily. They can provide support when needed, or become close friends who share the joys and sorrows of life. However, not every neighbor brings positive energy and peace. Some neighbors can bring about annoyance and even impact your quality of life and mental well-being. Here are 3 types of neighbors we should consider keeping at a distance to protect our own peace and the well-being of our families. In every community, there are nosy neighbors who are constantly talking. They love to speak at length and spread unverified gossip. They are always curious, eager to pry into others' personal lives, not just to know more, but to spread the news around. The stories they share from your family matters to the smallest details of life have the potential to become hot topics for the whole neighborhood. These types of neighbors not only talk a lot, but also don't hesitate to twist the truth, turning simple matters into dramatic, exaggerated tales. The danger of gossip lies in their ability to create unnecessary conflicts, misunderstandings, and drama. A wrong word or baseless rumor from such a person can ruin your reputation, damage family relationships, or make you the target of unwanted scrutiny. Sometimes just a casual comment from them can cause deep emotional distress, leaving you feeling insecure and losing trust in those around you. A philosophy of life suggests that while we can't change the habits of gossip, we can choose to keep our distance. Avoid sharing personal stories with these neighbors and steer clear of their drama-fueled circles. Remember that your inner peace and the tranquility of your life are more important than trying to please everyone. Don't let the rumors and unnecessary curiosity of gossip disrupt the peace you deserve. The selfish neighbor. Another type of neighbor to avoid is the selfish one, those who only think about themselves and their interests without any regard for others. They're the kind who never lend a helping hand but expect assistance from you as if it's a given. This selfishness creates an imbalance in the relationship, leaving you feeling exploited and exhausted. Consider the story of Mrs. Thompson in a small town. She had a neighbor named Jack who only cared about his own needs and never considered others. Once, Mrs. Thompson hurt her foot and couldn't drive, so she needed help with grocery shopping. Jack, knowing this, avoided her and claimed to be too busy to help. Yet, just a few weeks later, Jack came over to ask Mrs. Thompson to look after his dog for an entire weekend, wanting to maintain good relations. Mrs. Thompson agreed. From then on, Jack kept asking for favors, from picking up packages and cleaning his yard when he was away to taking care of his garden. But whenever Mrs. Thompson needed help, Jack always found legitimate excuses to decline. A selfish neighbor like Jack creates a skewed and unhealthy relationship. When you help them, it feels like you're giving too much without receiving anything in return. This not only causes strain in the relationship, but also leads to a sense of disappointment and mistrust in the fairness of the relationship. The philosophy in this situation is to understand your own limits. Don't be afraid to say no when you realize the relationship has become one-sided, where you are the only one giving. Observe how your neighbor treats you and others to gauge their true character. Maintain a balance in mutual assistance, as a good neighborly relationship is based on sharing and mutual support, not exploitation. Moreover, to maintain your peace and kindness, choose to help others only when it comes from a place of willingness and comfort. That way, you won't feel pressured by obligations or demands from a selfish person. More importantly, learn to let go of relationships with neighbors who only think about their own benefits, as doing so will help you protect your own peace and avoid unnecessary stress. The unhealthy lifestyle. The third type of neighbor you should keep your distance from is one with an unhealthy lifestyle. While they may not directly interfere with your life, their habits and behaviors can negatively affect your peace and quality of life. These neighbors may include those who frequently make noise, throw parties, get into arguments, or even engage in illegal activities, like gambling or trafficking banned substances. At times, their lack of consideration for the common environment or disregard for others can make your life stressful and full of inconveniences. Neighbors with unhealthy lifestyles often lack respect for shared spaces and cause numerous disturbances, such as loud noises late into the night, leaving trash scattered around, or acting impulsively and disorderly. From blaring loud music to endless parties or general chaos and noise in their daily lives, these behaviors significantly impact the quality of life for those living around them. Imagine coming home from a stressful day at work, yearning for some peace and rest, only to have a neighbor who continuously blasts music, laughs loudly, and has friends over until late at night, or a neighbor who refuses to clean up their trash around shared areas, making the living environment polluted and messy. Sometimes, they don't even need to directly disturb you. Their thoughtless and disorderly lifestyle alone is enough to rob you of your daily tranquility and comfort. So, what's the philosophy of life for dealing with this type of neighbor? While we cannot change someone else's lifestyle, we can control our reactions. Selecting a healthy living environment, seeking peace, and keeping a distance from neighbors with unhealthy lifestyles is a way to protect your mental health and personal happiness. When faced with such neighbors, if possible, engage in open and polite discussions, gently reminding them to respect shared spaces. However, if all efforts are in vain, find a way to maintain your distance and avoid getting drawn into their lifestyle. Don't forget that your living environment affects not just your physical health, but also your psychological well-being and happiness. To live a peaceful and balanced life, choose your surroundings and community wisely, and stay away from the negative energy brought by neighbors with unhealthy habits. As the old saying goes, you become like those you surround yourself with. So choose to live near light, where there is peace, health, and positivity, so your life can always be bright and serene. While we all wish for good neighborly relationships, it's not always easy to strike a balance between being close and keeping a healthy distance. There are times when being overly friendly or endlessly helpful can drag us into unnecessary troubles. That's why it's essential to know how to keep a distance and set boundaries. There's a well-known saying by the poet Robert Frost: "Good fences make good neighbors." This doesn't just refer to physical barriers, but also to setting necessary boundaries and distances in neighborly relationships. These boundaries help maintain respect, prevent excessive interference in each other's private lives, and ensure you aren't pulled into awkward situations or toxic relationships. Part 2. 3 types of relatives to avoid. The borrower. Family members always hold a special place in our lives. They are the people we share blood ties with, grow up alongside, and experience the joys and sorrows of life with. However, not every family relationship brings closeness and peace. At times, it is precisely those close to us who become the source of stress, conflict, or exploitation, leaving you feeling drained. As difficult as it may be, recognizing and knowing how to keep a distance from family members who have a negative impact is essential to protect your own peace. Below are 3 types of relatives to keep away from, to maintain balance in your life. In life, money can be a cause of rifts, not only between friends, but also within family relationships. In particular, a relative who borrows money but never intends to pay it back is someone to keep at arm's length. No matter how close the bond, once money is involved, it can alter the relationship, break trust, and place you in uncomfortable situations. Take Mrs. Johnson's story as an example. She had a cousin named Alex, who was constantly struggling financially. Out of compassion, Mrs. Johnson didn't hesitate to lend Alex a substantial amount of money to pay off debts and start a new business. Alex promised to pay her back once his business picked up, and Mrs. Johnson fully trusted him to keep his word. But as the months went by, not a single payment was made, and Mrs. Johnson continued to receive excuses like the business isn't stable yet. The money hasn't come in, or I'm struggling. Can you wait a little longer? When Mrs. Johnson tried to ask for her money back, Alex responded with irritation, accusing her of being rigid and lacking understanding of his situation. The previously close bond became strained as Mrs. Johnson's trust was deeply broken. Meanwhile, Alex not only failed to repay the debt, but also failed to realize that his dishonesty and irresponsibility had caused Mrs. Johnson to lose faith in their family bond. What's the takeaway philosophy here? Never let money ruin a relationship, but also don't let family ties turn you into someone to be taken advantage of. Helping a relative in times of need is admirable, but be cautious before lending money and establish clear principles to protect both your relationship and your finances. When you realize that a family member has no intention of repaying the money or doesn't genuinely appreciate your help, don't hesitate to maintain your distance or say no to further requests. How to handle this situation? Have a frank but gentle conversation. Explain that while you want to support them, there needs to be fairness and responsibility on both sides. If the family member is unable to repay, consider finding other ways to assist them that don't involve lending money. Most importantly, recognize your own limits and don't let a sense of obligation deplete you both financially and emotionally. Clearly, money is just a material thing, but if not handled transparently, it can cause harm not only to your wallet but also to your family relationships. Remember the principle. Clear money matters, clear relationships, so you can maintain close bonds with respect and trust. The self-serving relative. Another type of relative you should consider keeping your distance from is someone who only cares about their own interests without considering your emotions, needs, or sacrifices. They constantly demand and expect more from you, yet fail to reciprocate unless it directly benefits them. To them, relationships, even with family, are like transactions, and when they no longer receive value, they're quick to ignore or abandon you without a second thought. This kind of person tends to exploit your kindness and attention, but will never be around when you're struggling or need help. For example, they will readily call or visit when they need financial assistance, a favor, or want you to go out of your way for them. However, if you find yourself in a tough situation, they will act disinterested, claim to be too busy, or even pretend you don't exist. A self-serving relative often creates a one-sided relationship that can drain your emotional energy. Maintaining such a relationship leaves you feeling exhausted as you constantly give without receiving genuine support or care in return. Even worse, if you hope they might change, you are likely to face disappointment, as selfishness is often ingrained in their nature. What's the philosophy of life from this situation? Family relationships should not be built on demands, expectations, and one-sided benefits. A happy family is based on sharing, caring, and mutual sacrifices. No matter how important family ties may be, if only one side is always giving without receiving empathy or support from the other, the relationship becomes unfair and unhealthy. To handle this type of person, it's crucial to establish boundaries and protect your self-respect. Let them know that your support and kindness are not obligations, but choices based on mutual affection and respect. Don't be afraid to say no when you feel you're being taken advantage of, and be mindful when offering help if you detect selfishness in their actions. Family ties are important, but it doesn't mean you have to fulfill every demand if it requires you to sacrifice too much without receiving gratitude or concern in return. Living in fairness and respect is a fundamental principle for maintaining a healthy relationship with relatives. If someone only cares about their own interests without considering your feelings and needs, then keeping a distance and setting boundaries is the best way to protect your own peace and maintain a balanced, happy life. The lazy and dependent relative. A lazy and dependent relative can be exhausting, particularly when you find yourself bearing responsibility for them. Such individuals often lack a sense of independence and don't put in any effort to improve their lives, instead relying on others for financial support and assistance. This type of family member may leave you feeling stressed and burdened by the responsibility of carrying them throughout their lives. Once dependence becomes a habit, they will see it as a given, and you, the helper, become an endless provider. The story of Mr. Brown serves as a typical example. He was an elderly man who had retired and was living a peaceful life on his modest savings. His son, David, once held a stable job but was fired due to his lack of diligence, leaving him unemployed. Instead of finding a new job or learning to be self-reliant, David moved back in with his parents, living off Mr. Brown's pension. Every day, David would wake up late, do no household chores, and make no effort to find work. All living expenses, from groceries to utility bills, were paid by Mr. Brown. One day, Mr. Brown discovered that David had been spending money on video games and unnecessary outings. What angered Mr. Brown the most was when he overheard David on the phone boasting to his friends, "My dad is always looking out for me. I just stay home and enjoy life. He even worries about my future, so there's nothing to stress about." This remark was a wake-up call for Mr. Brown, who realized that his support and kindness were not helping David grow, but only turning him into a dependent, irresponsible person. David's laziness and dependence not only imposed a financial burden on Mr. Brown, but also caused emotional exhaustion. He felt that all his efforts to help were unappreciated, and that his son was becoming increasingly irresponsible. Offering help to relatives is a noble gesture, but it is essential to set limits so that kindness does not become indulgence and assistance, doesn't turn into a cycle of laziness and dependence. As the famous saying goes, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. This emphasizes that rather than nurturing a habit of dependence, teach your family members to be self-reliant and face life on their own. This is the type of support that provides lasting value, fostering self-respect for them and bringing peace to you. What's the life philosophy drawn from this story? When your kindness becomes a given to a relative, that's the time to set boundaries. Helping family members in tough times is admirable. But if that help only fosters laziness and dependency, you may inadvertently push them into a situation where they can't stand on their own. Sometimes, saying no can be a lesson for them to understand the value of effort and responsibility. Dealing with this type of relative requires frankness and resolve. Don't be afraid to refuse when they repeatedly ask for help or continue their lazy habits. Encourage them to become independent by limiting your assistance. Remember that true kindness is not about unconditional support, but about empowering others to stand on their own 2 feet. Relationships with lazy and dependent relatives can drain your financial and emotional resources. Setting boundaries and helping them learn self-reliance will not only protect your own well-being, but also encourage them to improve themselves and take responsibility for their lives. Part 3. The philosophy of choosing and letting go. The importance of choosing relationships. In life, relationships play an incredibly important role. They are sources of inspiration and joy, but they can also become burdens, whether it's neighbors or family members. The smart selection of relationships is key to maintaining happiness and peace. When you connect with people who have a positive mindset, you will feel inner tranquility and life will seem brighter. On the contrary, when you maintain relationships with those who carry negative energy, lead unhealthy lifestyles, or are only self-serving, you'll feel drained stressed, and may even lose faith in life. Therefore, choosing healthy, positive relationships not only helps you lead a happier life, but also shields your mind from unnecessary negative influences. Pay attention to how others treat you, how they show respect and sincerity in your relationship. Don't be afraid to distance yourself from people who bring discomfort or distress. Making those choices creates the living environment you desire. Knowing how to let go of toxic relationships. One of the greatest challenges in choosing relationships is learning how to let go of those that are not suitable, be they neighbors or family. You may have been close to them for a long time, or you may not want to hurt them. But if that relationship robs you of peace and balance in your life, then letting go is the best way to protect yourself. Letting go does not mean cutting off all communication or acting negatively. Letting go here means maintaining a necessary distance, not allowing yourself to be pulled into troubles, stress, or unhealthy dependence. It's about choosing and prioritizing your inner peace over toxic relationships. While this decision can be difficult, and you may feel guilty, remember that to achieve balance and happiness in life, sometimes we must let go of what's not worthy. Respecting yourself and building quality relationships. At the core of choosing relationships is knowing how to respect yourself. When you value yourself, you will naturally attract quality relationships that are respectful and bring positive energy. Good relationships are built on sincerity, mutual respect, and two-way support. Don't be afraid to say no to people who make you feel negative or take advantage of you. This refusal is not selfishness, but a demonstration of self-respect and self-love. Choose friends, family, and neighbors with whom you feel genuine sincerity. Those who share joy, help when needed, and respect your privacy. Only when you respect yourself can you build and maintain relationships that bring peace and happiness to your life. Life is a series of choices and decisions. To live happily and peacefully, you need to filter the relationships around you. Keep those who help you grow, and let go of those who harm or disrupt your balance. Only when you cherish yourself and prioritize your inner peace can you build quality relationships that bring true joy and happiness. Part 4. The Philosophy of Human Value. The Story of the Stone. One day, a young monk approached his master and asked, "Master, what is the true value of a human life?" The master replied, "Go to the garden, pick up a stone, clean it, and then take it to the market to sell. If someone asks for its price, don't say anything, just hold up 2 fingers. If they offer to buy it, don't sell it and bring the stone back to me. I will tell you the value of life." Following his master's instructions the next morning, the young monk took the stone to the market. The market was bustling, and many people were curious about the stone. A woman approached and asked, "How much is this stone?" The young monk remained silent and held up 2 fingers. $2, the woman asked. The monk shook his head. Then $20. "I want to buy it to press pickles," she said. Surprised, the monk thought, "Wow, a seemingly worthless stone could fetch $20. But he did not sell it and took the stone back to his master. Upon hearing the story, the master nodded. "Tomorrow, take the stone to a museum. If someone asks about the price, do the same as you did today. If they make an offer, don't sell it and bring it back." The following morning, at the museum, a crowd gathered around the stone. One person stepped forward and asked, "How much is this stone?" The monk held up 2 fingers again. $200, the person asked. The monk shook his head. Then $2,000. "I want to buy it to carve a sculpture," he continued. The monk was amazed but did not sell it, bringing the stone back once more. The master smiled and said, "Tomorrow, take this stone to an antique shop. If someone asks about the price, do as before. When you return, I will tell you the value of a human life." On the 3rd day, the young monk went to the antique shop. As soon as he placed the stone down, many people crowded around. A customer asked, "How much is this stone?" The monk held up 2 fingers. $2,000, the customer asked in surprise. The monk shook his head. Then how about $200,000? I want to buy it. Astonished. The monk quickly ran back up the mountain with the stone and breathlessly recounted the story to his master. The master listened patiently, smiled kindly and said, "My child, the value of a stone depends on where you place it. At the market, it is worth $20. At the museum, its value rises to $2,000. And at the antique shop, it is worth $200,000. A person's value is the same. It depends on the environment they place themselves in, how they perceive themselves, and where they choose to live." The story of the stone is not just about material worth, but carries a profound message about the value of human life. Just like the stone, the value of each person is not fixed but varies according to their living environment, self-perception, and the choices they make. If you place yourself in a positive environment where others respect, support, and appreciate your qualities, you will find your highest value. Conversely, if you are in a negative environment where people don't recognize your abilities, don't respect you, and constantly undermine you, it becomes difficult to see and express your true worth. But the story isn't just about the external environment. It's also about how you view yourself, confidence in your value, refusing to underestimate yourself, and knowing what you want are the ways to position yourself correctly, like the stone in the museum or antique shop, where people recognize its potential and appreciate its value. I sincerely thank you for taking the time to listen and reflect on the stories and philosophies of life that we've shared. I hope these messages bring you peace, joy, and inspiration to live more positively and with love. Thank you for always supporting us, and I wish you a fulfilling and meaningful life. The value of a person is not just tied to their talents or knowledge, but also to their spiritual foundation, self-awareness, and choice of living environment. Positioning yourself in the right place allows you to showcase your best value, much like a seemingly worthless stone rising to thousands in value when placed in the right environment. Always remember that you have the power to define your own worth. Choose a healthy living environment, build quality relationships, and place yourself in spaces that allow you to maximize your true value. If you found this video insightful, please subscribe to our channel after 7080 to stay updated with our latest content. We are committed to bringing you more valuable insights and stories that can enrich your life. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our new videos. We appreciate your support and look forward to sharing more with you. Thank you for being part of our community.